Welcome to an episode of Chat Sports Talker. Welcome to Week 11 of the 2024 NFL season. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. You're starting to see the separation, really, of the pretenders and contenders. Teams that I think are just playing for next year's draft at this point. Teams that have had optimism injected into them, seen it stripped away. And those teams that we thought were down and out have all of a sudden risen to the top. And we'll kind of go over some of those games coming up. We'll also dive back into previous week and how I did, kind of do a shotgun aspect of how things will transpire. And we look forward to Week 11. There will be no more European games. The last one was in Week 10. So let's look back at Week 10. And I kind of fell down a little bit, you could say. I won Thursday night, which is a rarity. As I mentioned last week, I don't normally win on Thursday night games. I was able to sneak out that one, and then all those early Sunday games, it was loss. I was like, I couldn't stop losing. it was bad. But still above 500, so I'm good there. Last Thursday, Cincinnati and Baltimore, I knew this was going to be a close game. And Cincinnati has the capability of winning games, but somehow they can't close them out this year. And Joe Burrow had one of his best days this season. 426 yards in the air and 4 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, one of his best careers as well. 264 yards receiving, with 3 of those touchdowns. These two were doing everything possible to put Cincinnati over the top. The Cincinnati defense was doing everything it could to limit the effectiveness of Derrick Henry, which they did. He was held only to 68 yards and 1 touchdown. However, the fourth quarter is when things just collapsed. This is where Lamar Jackson was able to really lead his team moving forward and take the edge and take the lead. And then Cincinnati came storming back. And it's a 2-point try to win the game because Cincinnati realized that Lamar was he had 3 straight scoring drives. They realized the defense could not stop Lamar. Lamar was, on a different level at this point in the game. So they went for the win, went for the 2, didn't make it. That was it. Started me off with Week 1. Then we woke up early in Deutschland, getting your big stein of Bitburger. If you see photos and you saw their things of beer, yes, that's how Germans drink beer. They, for the most part, have big steins where they drink from, especially in Bavaria. And this one, I went with the Giants over the Panthers because I thought the Giants was a little bit better overall. I think they are, but somehow Daniel Jones they're struggling throughout this game. Bryce Young was actually doing pretty good. Hubbard. There we go. English, hard. 153 yards on the ground and a touchdown for the Panthers. Really set the tone for the Panthers as Carolina led for most of the game. But Daniel Jones showed why he was tagged the franchise quarterback, and he led the team to a comeback and tying this game, sending the overtime at 17-all. They got the initial drive. On the first play in overtime, Tracy fumbled the ball. That was it. Carolina kicked the game winner. Then we're off to Chicago as the Bears play host to the Patriots, and the Chicago team that a lot of fans, including myself, were getting hyped up about. Party a little too hard too quickly. Ever since that loss in D.C., Chicago's been a completely different team. They have not been the same, and they can't get out. Caleb Williams cannot get out of his funk. The funk he had at the end of his college career where he just kept losing games. And it's One of the downsides of Caleb Williams. Bears could not muster a touchdown once again. Caleb Williams is holding on the ball way too long. Now O-line cannot protect him that long. They're not developing plays that elevate Caleb Williams' play style right now. They reverted back to what in the beginning of the season where he couldn't do anything instead of readjusting to make short routes, quicker routes. Receivers not get separation. It's a whole team effort at this point. The Bears defense is doing all they can. I mean, they only allowed New England 19 points and only one touchdown. But when your offense can't put points on the board, it's a moot point, and they're going to get frustrated and then just going to give up themselves. The Bears lose again, 19-3. And I was being optimistic. We had to Indianapolis, one of my bright spots of the early Sunday games, and the Bills went into Indy. Just outpaced them, winning 30-20. In Kansas City, I picked Denver to win in KC. And for a point in time, Denver was winning. And then the second half, the offense stuttered. They couldn't get anything. Kansas City defense stepped up to the plate. But Denver's defense did not allow Kansas City to really run away with it. They only had 2 scoring plays, both in Buckner's field goals. And Bo Nix actually led a charge towards the end of the game to set up a game winner. I mean, everything was set up for them to win. And the Chiefs special teams came through and blocked the kick. Escaped a potential loss to the Broncos, 16-14. Now New Orleans, with Saints playing host to the Falcons. I picked the Falcons. No, Kirk Cousins is going to have a good game. Yeah, over 300 yards. No touchdowns, 1 pick. It was just, he couldn't really get much of anything going. I mean, Bijan Robinson at least was the highlight for him because he was able to run. He had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But if you couldn't match that with touchdowns with Kirk Cousins, it makes things a little difficult. Carr was able to do enough, and the defenses were just phenomenal. At the fourth quarter, they both just shut everyone down, and that was it. Saints ended up edging the Falcons 20-17. Niners went down to Tampa. I picked the Buccaneers and went at home. I had a feeling. So the Brock Purdy, he had that feeling. He had over 350 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and then set up a game winner for Moody as the 49ers escaped Tampa Bay 23-20. That was the last of my early Sunday losses. Was the last of my losses. Pittsburgh, Washington went down to the wire. Much as I thought it would. It was Russell that showed up at the end. Had this beautiful pass to Mike Williams to get that game-winning touchdown as Pittsburgh escaped D.C. 28-27. Minnesota struggling Jacksonville, and that's the thing about Jacksonville. There's another team that puts up a lot of stiff competition like Cincinnati. They just can't get over the hump. I mean, they had that great drive in the beginning where they scored a touchdown. But after that, nothing. Sam Darnold had one of his worst passing games, 3 picks. We'll get another worse performance than that. No touchdowns. We had over 240 yards in the air. Jones, only 80 yards on the ground. They scored 0 touchdowns and won 12-7. Chargers were a little too much for Tennessee as they ended up beating them 27-17. Philly goes into Dallas, and Dallas is just bad. Micah Parsons came back for the Cowboys, which was a good thing for them, but not having Dak, and I think Diggs was also out. This was a bad performance. Saquon Barkley didn't really do much. He only had 66 yards on the ground. It went through Jalen Hurts mainly, 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Philly just routed Dallas 34-6. Out in the desert, I call for the Cardinals to ground the Jets, and did they ground them? I mean, Aaron Rodgers cannot do squat. He needs to go back in this dark room, I think stay there. This whole highlight they did the previous week when they beat Houston at home quickly came crashing back to earth. I mean, it must have been suffering a hangover or something because it was bad. As Kyler Murray had 266 yards, 1 touchdown in the air. But, Cardinals were just way too much. Routed the Jets 31-6. And then on Sunday night, a great game between Detroit and Houston. I mean, there's no doubt that Texans were up early. Detroit's one of these feisty teams. You just can't quite knock them out. I mean, it was a 23-7 halftime lead. Houston fans were probably ecstatic. They're like, we got this in the bag. We're finally going to knock off a huge team. Detroit just kept coming back and coming back. Even Goff, 5 interceptions, could not deter the Lions. The teams were just going, no, here you go. You have the ball. No, I insist. You have the ball. I mean, this is like a good-natured holiday movie here instead of, a nightmare scenario. And towards the end of the game, it was all tied 23. Detroit, once again, had the ball. They marched just enough where Jack Bates makes a 52-yard field goal. That's right, another 50-plus yard field goal game winner. This seems to be the common theme right now, today's kickers. I don't know what they've been training them or what they've been eating. Things more than just Wheaties. But he hit the game winner as the Lions escape Houston 26-23. And then Monday night, and this is where I was hoping for my 9th win. Didn't quite happen. Dolphins defense showed up. They stifled the Rams. They couldn't really do much and get anywhere. Williams only had 62 yards on the ground. Stafford was 290 yards in the air. Somewhat productive, but no touchdowns. That's what they did. They were to suffocate them. And soon as they got anywhere close to the end zone, that's when the Miami's defense clamped down. As the Rams are only able to muster 15 points. Tua was trying to help out, throwing a pick, and then doing a tackle with his head. This man would never learn anything unless he's a vegetable. But Miami went down to L.A., shocked the Rams, and left with a 23-15 victory, giving me my 8-6 record for last week. Well, now we got all that sad story out of the way. Let's go ahead and kick things off for Week 11, Thursday night. A huge NFC East showdown to determine who is going to control the East. Will it be the 7-3 Commanders or the 7-2 Eagles? This should be interesting. Washington actually had a decent game against Pittsburgh. Came out short. I know they had a decent game against Baltimore. Couldn't quite, come across the line either. They had that scare against the Giants, a scare against the Bears. And you look at the Eagles. Ever since, the break, they have been on this tear. Now, note, they haven't really faced anyone tough. They out-dueled Cincinnati. The first 2 games, we're not going to worry about those 2. Even though they struggle against Cleveland, but still winning. Just out-dueled Cincinnati. Tried to give the game away to Jacksonville, and then they just demolished Dallas. So Philly's in a good spot. The defense is stepping up. The offense is playing better, and that's going to spell trouble for the rest of the league. Now, could Sirianni just totally tank everything? Absolutely. He is one of the factors you have to worry about for the Eagles. Also, does Hurst revert back? Do the Georgia boys in defense revert back? There's some other issues you have to take into account. Can Saquon Barkley continue to leap over individuals backwards? He's going to start treating the defense like Goombas, and he's Super Mario, just jumping on them as he moves on. But Jaden Daniels is definitely a threat for that defense. You have to try to contain him from escaping, as well as trying to limit his passing. He does have an arm. He can throw it. Cam McLaren, Scary Terry, continuing to be a huge factor. It's hard to say. Right now, analytics has it kind of close, which I understand. It's 50% for Philly. The spread right now is 3.5 for Philly. I, too, like Philly. I do think this is going to be a really good game for Thursday night. This should really highlight everything. I would not be surprised if Washington would actually win But I think Philly's going to find ways to capitalize. It's going to probably be like that Pittsburgh game. It's going to be a late score. Philly's going to show up and just do the drive they have to do and end up winning. Probably I kind of like that 3-4 point spread. Then we had this Sunday, and we head to Chicago. And as a Bears fan, looking at the rest of the season, I don't see them win the game. I mean, maybe at the end of the season when they play the Packers again, because Green Bay is going to have stuff locked up. But the way this offense is right now, they have nothing going for them. Caleb Williams has reverted back to his old self. He's not confident in the passing game. He hangs on the ball too long. He's not elusive enough. He's not loose and carefree. He's not progressing. And that's part of the problem with the Bears. They don't develop quarterbacks. To see the Bears come out on top of this one, to really just stick it to Green Bay, who has had their number for decades now. But right now, Green Bay analytically is favored by 64%. They have a 6.5 point spread. The way the Bears' offense is playing, I don't see any difference in that. Their offense is just atrocious right now. I hate to say it, but Packers. Staying in the North, we head over to the Motor City as the Lions play host to the Jaguars. This is going to be a interesting thing, as right now Trevor Lawrence is out, so the Jaguars' offense is probably not going to be as potent as it could be. I do think that Goff is going to try to push away that game he had against Houston, try to get his numbers back up, because having those 5 picks. Doubling his picks for the year, over-doubling his picks for the year in one game is kind of atrocious, but still end up winning. It's a testament to Campbell and the rest of the Detroit Lions. Right now, the Lions are favored by 87%. Got a 13.5 point spread. With no Trevor Lawrence, I think Jacksonville's kind of done. I think Doug Peterson's going to be done. And, Lions. Last team of the NFC North Division, the Vikings are head to the Music City, take on the Titans, and it's going to be interesting for Minnesota because Aaron Jones right now is questionable. Does that really affect things? Sam Darnold had another bad game. Can he go back to the form he had at the beginning of the season where he was laying it up? I mean, it's possible. He's playing the team that really doesn't have anything going for it right now. And I think this is going to be one of these games that he's going to really love to enjoy right now. Analytics have Minnesota at 66%. He has a 6.5 point spread. Looking at what Jacksonville's done, or Tennessee's done, and not really done anything. The only time their defense really stepped up was against New England. But beyond that, not so much. And for Minnesota, they kind of need a game to kind of retool themselves, and this is going to be it. But I think it's going to be Minnesota, and I kind of like the odds. Down in South Beach, where the surprise Dolphins will play host to their 70s rival, Raiders. So they come to town, and the Raiders are just a hodgepodge of players right now. Minshew is just that hasn't lived up to the hype, but I don't think he really had hype to go with him. I mean, he had, I think, that maybe a year or two where he was like doing pretty good and hasn't done anything since. If Tua can stay healthy, continue to protect himself. If he throws a pick, don't launch yourself. But I have a feeling it's going to be Miami's going to have a better time frame as long as the defense stepped up the way they did against the Rams and do it against the Raiders. It's no problem as long as Tua can stay away from Max Crosby. I think he'd be all right. Right now, analytics has it Miami at 62%, 6.5 point spread. I like them both. Dolphins. Then we have to Foxborough as the New England Patriots play host to LA Rams. The Rams are looking to try to rebound from their letdown at home. It looks like Stafford still has his full cupboard of toys he can play with. New England defensively looked really good against Chicago. but you're playing a very different quarterback, a very different offense in terms of LA, and they're not going to have the same results as they did in the Windy City. Right now, analytics has a 64% LA with a 5.5-point spread. Looking at what they've done, I think the Rams should be able to do this. I think New England will put up some points. I think Drake May is starting to really thrive in this system, and going party scare the Rams for a bit. But I think having the vet Stafford there and Kupp and Nakua and Williams all available for his usage, Stafford's going to have a drive at the end. So I do think it might be less than 5.5. But I do like the Rams to win in New England. Then we head down to New Orleans as the Saints play host to the Browns, and it's a hodgepodge right now. I think the Saints winning against Atlanta, I think it's the spark they need to kind of get their season back on track, try and get past some of these injuries they have on them. Having Carr back, having Kamara back, then get the receivers back to try to help push this team forward. I mean, they snapped that losing streak they had. I think it's only a matter of time, but Cleveland's going to find ways to kind of stay in there. I mean, they had that great win against Baltimore, but beyond that, they haven't done much of anything else. But right now, analytics has it kind of split right down the middle with a slight edge to Cleveland. But the point spread is Saints at 2.5. Looking at this aspect, these are just two teams, I think, or one team's definitely in a free fall. One's trying to see if they can try to salvage something to get in there, but I think they might be too far out. But we'll give the Saints to win at home. I think it's just the pride will kick in, and they're going to want to at least let's get 2 wins in a row and see what happens. See if they can sneak in the playoff as a divisional champ. Maybe Atlanta collapses and they can sneak in. One of those things. But yeah, I think the Saints just go marching on. Then we head over to Foxborough and the Jets. Excuse me, not Foxborough, the Meadowlands. Wow. Well, there's a slip. Huge misstep there. But the Jets crash land at home to play host to the Colts. And what I've seen of the Jets, they don't look like they should. The defense hasn't really done much of anything. I mean, they had the huge defensive showdown against the Texans, but beyond that, they haven't done much of anything else. And the Colts is one of these teams you just can't do that with, especially with Flacco at the helm. He's a not as mobile, so he'd probably be easier to capture. But if Taylor can break out and make a few good runs to kind of keep the defense in check. For the Jets, Hall really has to be the focal point that Rodgers needs to hand off the ball to him. And I think both teams need to establish the run to kind of keep both defenses, shrink them in, to allow the passing game then to go on. For the Jets, they're a little bit better in that aspect because you have Aaron Rodgers, but Devontae Adams is questionable. In terms of this video, right now, analytics has it 57% for the Jets and a 3.5-point spread. There's nothing I've seen from the Jets in Gang Green that lets me know that they can do this. I don't see it. Now, maybe they do show up, and I'm proven wrong. So be it. It won't be the first time. But I just think old man Flacco is going to outpace old man Rodgers, and the Colts are going to escape with the W. Now we head to the Steel City. We have a huge AFC North showdown between the Ravens and the Steelers for control of the AFC North. Wow, another key divisional matchup here. Can Baltimore repeat their aspects they did against Cincinnati? Can Pittsburgh repeat their antics they did against Washington? These are two teams looking to kind of repeat what they've done. Two great head coaches. Two good quarterbacks. Some iconic, one has an iconic running back. Others has some very good receivers, some decent tight ends. I mean, it is a good matchup on both sides of the ball, and this is a true battle is going to happen here. And you've seen the Steelers play pretty close. I mean, they're close against the Giants until they, close against Washington. They look at Baltimore close against Cincinnati. So how are they going to really step up? Can they really contain everything? Can the Steelers defense really contain Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry? I think they're going to find ways in the beginning to kind of stifle both offenses. Both defenses find ways to stop both offenses early. It's just which one can make the adjustments, which ones can isolate other things. And it's just the Steelers have a few layers as well to contend with. But right now, analytics, 61% in Baltimore have them and also they have a 3-point advantage in the spread. I do think this will be a very close game. I would not surprise if this is going to be like Cincinnati or Washington games. I mean, I really think this could be a 1-point affair. I really think this is going to be a really, really good matchup. And I like Baltimore's chances a little bit more than Pittsburgh, but this should be really, really fun. Now it's time to head to the Mile High City as the Denver Broncos play host to Atlanta Falcons. And Denver was this close, knocking off the Chiefs at Arrowhead. The kick wasn't blocked. And Atlanta just, the passing attack couldn't find the end zone. I have a feeling this might be this almost exact same scenario both teams went through. But I think Denver's not going to have that block kick. Denver has lost 2 in a row. But I do think playing against Atlanta might give them that. And Atlanta's got to try to get past that loss against New Orleans, get back on the winning side again. But it tends to be like Atlanta's MO is, they have a game or two when they do good, and then a game or two and they don't. They're not very consistent. Which running attack's going to be? Is it going to be Robinson or going to be Williams? Which one's going to have the better game? Right now, Bijan Robinson is definitely setting the pace, and that's what you need to do. Right now, analytics is 58% for Atlanta. Spread is Denver for 1.5. I see both sides of this coin as well. And once again, I'm going to go with Denver to win at home. Now time to head out to Santa Clara as the 49ers face off against the Seattle Seahawks. And try to see who's going to creep up to that number 2 position out there in the West. Because Arizona came out of nowhere. Our division leaders. Injuries, once again, plays a huge aspect into this. As DK Metcalf is questionable right now for the Seahawks. George Kittle's questionable for the 49ers. So there's two huge things that both Geno Smith and Brock Purdy are going to miss out. They're going to need those guys. So can Walker and Mason really keep it up? Remember, McCaffrey's also back, so McCaffrey's going to get a lot more action in the backfield as well. But he's also a receiving threat you have to worry about, so that's the dual threat there. Right now, San Francisco is favored by 69% analytically. I have a 6.5-point spread as well. I think I will push back on the spread. I do think Seattle will make this a little bit closer, even though last time these two faced, San Francisco's going to beat them 36-24 in Seattle. But I think Seattle's going to try to make this a little bit closer to kind of avenge their home loss. They're not going to they're not going to do it. I mean, it's probably still be like a 6-point loss. But I do think 49ers are starting to gel and starting to get the pieces back in place. And this is going to really kind of elevate them to the next stage that they need to get to try to get to the dance and try, make their mark. But 49ers. And then a huge showdown between the Chiefs and the Bills. This is going to be probably your AFC title game. No question about it. Josh Allen is definitely having an MVP season with over 2,200 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 400 picks. Patrick Mahomes just finding ways to win. I mean, he still has good numbers, over 2,200 yards passing himself with 12 touchdowns, but he has the 9 picks. And then having all the injuries he had suffered on his offense is still finding ways to win either through the defense or through special teams like last week. Hunt coming back and really reinsert himself into that offense has really elevated the Chiefs' play offensively. Josh Allen has to find new ways to find individuals. Kincaid's questionable. Amari Cooper's questionable. Keon Coleman, their rookie wide receiver, is out. So they're missing key pieces on that offense, which they missed last week against Indianapolis. But that was it. Now they got to take on the defending Super Bowl champions. This can determine where the AFC runs through. Right now, analytics has Buffalo at 53%. The spread has Buffalo in 2.5. Something tells me this is going to be Kansas City's game. However, I don't think Kansas City will be undefeated. This is just 17 games. It's going to be unheard of. You will never have another undefeated team in the NFL. I mean, the Patriots was the last one that tried to do it, and the Giants ended it at the Super Bowl. Two quarterbacks are going to be, the new Mount Rushmore of modern football quarterbacking. And I don't see them changing much of anything. These two are going to really have a great game. This is a great rivalry between these two. The Chiefs defense is definitely going to step up. Josh Allen's going to be running for his life. Patrick Mahomes is going to be running for his life. Can he limit his mistakes? Can Josh Allen limit his mistakes? Who can take care of opportunities that present themselves? I like Buffalo to win at home in the regular season. It's going to be a different story in the playoffs. And that's where Josh Allen keeps losing to Patrick Mahomes is the postseason. But during the regular season, Josh Allen tends to have the upper advantage. And I don't think things would change here. Bills. Sunday night, we head out to SoFi as the Chargers play host to the Bengals. The Chargers keeps finding ways to win, and they're not pretty about it. I mean, take away the Cleveland game. That was Cleveland. Tennessee, yeah. New Orleans, that was just an ugly game against a injury-ridden team, and they only mustered 26 points. The way Cincinnati offense is playing, sooner or later, the offense is going to outpace the other offense, but then will allow them to make silly mistakes and allow the defense to take care of opportunities that present themselves and move forward. Because Joe Burrow right now, he himself is having MVP-like numbers. Over 2,600 yards in the air with 24 touchdowns and only 4 picks. And he's doing this all on while the defense continues to lose the game for him. Herbert, not that great numbers. He hasn't even reached even 1,900 yards in the air. I don't think he really had to. They don't have to put a lot of effort into the offense. So defense tends to put teams away. But Cincinnati is going to be a different beast. They're going to come in there looking for the victory. But right now, analytics has it 52% LA. The spread's 2.5 LA. The Bengals going to have to come on top of somebody sooner or later. I mean, they could have done it last week against Baltimore and just couldn't. And then the previous week, they had that great the win against the Raiders. And then you lose to Philadelphia. So sooner or later, they have to face a decent team and actually win. And that's part of the problem. They can't seem to beat the decent teams and need to do it. So I think this will be that game. I think the Bengals will end up winning this game, getting them back into sniffing for that playoff position because you got to think Denver holds that last spot at 5-5. They're only a game back. So them winning, putting pressure on Denver, gives them the opportunity possibly to sneak in, but definitely I like the Bengals to win on the road here. And then we finish off Monday night in Alice, Texas, as the Houston Texans come to town to state their claim as the best team in the Lone Star State. And what I've seen of the Cowgirls right now, there is nothing on that team that lets me know they're the best team in Texas. I mean, who you going to put at the quarterback? Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, Michael Parsons is back, sure, but who are you going to throw to? It's been pretty bad. I mean, yeah, the Texans are missing Nico Collins. That's going to really kind of hamper a little bit of their offensive passing attack. There we go. And when Michael Parsons is back in the lineup, the offensive line for the Texans will be tested, much like they were against the Jets when the Jets defense finally showed up against them 2 weeks ago. But, you know, it's one of these games. I mean, you look what they did against Detroit. They stepped up. Their defense collapsed towards the end. But they don't have to worry about that type of quarterback play from the Cowboys. Right now, analytics, 79% Houston. The point spread right now is 7 advantage Houston. The Cowboys are done. Stick a fork in them. They are done. It's just, I think, a matter of time before McCarthy gets let go. It's just a matter of time who they bring in and who's going to fit in with Jerry Jones. There's that many coaches out there that probably are willing to work with that man, but that's beside the point. Houston needs to kind of get some swagger back. I mean, they had, like I said, the good game against the Lions, lost to the Jets. Losers of 3 of the last 4 games. They need to get back on the winning side. This is the way to do it. I think Houston will leave Arlington victors to claim the title, the best team in Texas. Well, there you go. Those are my picks. Didn't really go off to a wall too much on this one. I mean, there might be a few of them that I kind of went, I'm going this direction. But otherwise, I'm trying to play it safe this time around. Like I said, you start to see separation between the pretenders and the contenders. A lot of key matchups. That Thursday night matchup's huge. Huge. Bills and Chiefs. And Ravens and Steelers both headlighting late Sunday games. Why one of them not pushed to Sunday night or one push earlier in the game so that we have back-to-back good games, I don't know. Thinking that Sunday night game should be interesting. But let me know down below which game you're looking forward to. Is your team still in the hunt for the playoffs, or are they on track to try to tank for a good playoff draft position? Let me know down in the comments below. The more you interact, the higher boost it gets to the algorithm. If you like what I do, especially ramblings and my butchering of the English language, go ahead, hit that thumbs up for me. It really helps out. Then you can do is subscribe. Let you guys review my work. I love you all for doing that. Now make you subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. You hit that subscribe button, click that bell icon, turn on notifications. Next time I post any more content on my channel. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.